So I'm sitting here, I'm actually about half a mile from the Dead Sea. The reason that it's called the Dead Sea is because everything in it is lifeless. It's full of salt. And if you look at the area around the Dead Sea, there's no life. And yet in the middle of this desert area, there's this place. It's called En-Gedi. And there are literally streams in the desert. It's an oasis.
Okay. This looks cool. Come again.
Back in the Old Testament, King David, before he was king, he became famous because he killed Goliath. And if you're unfamiliar with David, think David and Goliath, or maybe David and Bathsheba. After David killed Goliath, he became famous in Israel. In fact, the women would sing a song about him. It would be a song about David and about the king at the time. His name was Saul. And the song went like this: Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. And that song is awesome if you're David, but it's kind of hard to deal with, right? If you're Saul. And Saul became jealous of David with a capital J, and so Saul began to chase David with an army. David fled. David actually rounded some guys together. They were like rebels, and they were hiding in this area. There were a few hundred of them, and Saul was on the march with 3,000 soldiers looking for David. And so David and his few hundred were hiding from Saul and his 3,000. And as they were hiding here in this area, Saul and his soldiers were marching through. And Saul literally, the Bible says, had to take a bathroom break. And so he went into one of the caved areas here around En-Gedi. Little did he know, it happened to be a cave where David and his soldiers were hiding. And so David's soldiers were whispering in David's ear as Saul was, the Bible says, relieving himself. And they said, "This is your moment, David. You can kill King Saul right now, and with that, take the throne." And so Saul, as he was in a vulnerable position, was there, and David came up behind him. And David could have taken his life, but he didn't. He just cut off a piece of Saul's robe. You know, in this series, we're talking about being unafraid. We're talking about having courage. And David, at this moment, in all of his desperation against his enemy Saul, could have killed him. But here's what David knew. At this moment in history, Saul was the king, which in David's mind meant that Saul was anointed by God to still be king. And when God no longer wanted Saul as king, God would make the move. And so David, when he had a chance to kill his enemy, did not, because he wanted to honor God. Today we're talking about the courage of waiting. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to wait on the Lord.